Welcome back to another episode of the Meat Mafia podcast. If this is your first time joining us, we have one goal and one goal only, and that is that you, yes, you, listen to this podcast and get at least one valuable piece of information that inspires you to go radically change your health today. If this is your second, third, fourth, or 100th time listening to the Meat Mafia podcast, we are so grateful to have you, and we are so thankful for your continued support. Before we get going, if you would not mind going and following us on all of our platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course, Twitter, we would greatly appreciate it. This just allows us to expand our reach, and your reviews, comments, and feedback give us more and more things to think about and improve the show with. Lastly, this is a user-supported podcast and newsletter, and we would not be able to do what we love doing without your generous support and the support from our sponsors. We take great pride in the relationships that we've built with our sponsors and truly believe that they are the best resources out there for better health. Your support and their support, and you supporting them, means the world to us. If you are enjoying the podcast and getting value out of it, please check us out on the Fountain app below, where you can support us by streaming us sats or sending us support via our Fountain Bitcoin wallet. Without further ado, here is a word from our sponsors. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Carnivore Bar. The Carnivore Bar is a veteran-owned, animal-based company focused on bringing you the highest quality pemmican product on the market. Pemmican is an ancient tradition practiced by American indigenous cultures, and it's focused on simple ingredients: beef, tallow, and salt. It's built for grab-and-go snacking, and it's a great sort of travel, hiking, or school lunch snack. And it's really built for those long-lasting days where you can just run on basically no fuel other than just simple fats. It's rich in saturated fats and provides everything you need to sustain long-lasting energy throughout the busy day. In my opinion, this is a product that is an absolute must, so go check it out in the link below. Also, check out our podcast with the founder, Philip Meese. He does an incredible job breaking down the mission and the passion behind the company. And I think if you're interested in animal-based nutrition, Philip will inspire you with his product. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Holy Cow Beef. Holy Cow Beef is regeneratively raised, grass-fed, grass-finished beef raised right here in Lubbock, Texas. Regeneratively raised, grass-fed, grass-finished beef is the gold standard of beef, and Ann and Weldon Warren have made it their lives' mission to provide incredibly high-quality beef to their local community and beyond. They have been raising their animals this way for decades. In fact, they were some of the most influential voices for getting grass-fed and grass-finished beef in Whole Foods back when Whole Foods was a startup grocery store. They were influential in setting the AGA standards, which is the American Grass-Fed Association, so you know they are doing things the right way, and on top of all of that, their beef tastes like butter. Grass-fed, grass-finished beef provides a superior omega-3 to omega-6 ratio than your typical beef, or in other words, it causes less inflammation in your body. So you are promoting a high protein, high fat diet with this amazingly high quality beef, and saturated fats are playing their critical role in benefiting your body through supporting hormonal functions and cellular functions. And if you're looking for the highest quality beef, look no further than Holy Cow Beef. Leave your butcher box, that Australian and New Zealand raised meat, in the cart and order from your friends Ann and Weldon Warren over at Holy Cow Beef. I almost forgot the most important part there. Ann and Weldon Warren also accept Bitcoin as payment, so go check them out at their website in the link below, and you can pay in Bitcoin or in cash if you're looking to save your Bitcoin. I don't know about you all, but I am all about rewriting the incentives when it comes to healthcare, and Crowd Health is doing just that. Crowd Health is essentially crowdfunding for healthcare with a small HSA component mixed in. Paying through the nose for health insurance you may never use, only to be turned away when you actually need it, is incredibly frustrating. Also, the exorbitant costs of health insurance has so many baked-in premiums that when you compare settling your doctor's bills by paying in cash versus using insurance, the cost is astronomical. So crowdfunding allows you to settle your medical bills in cash and then get the funding you need from your group through Crowd Health. This is a great alternative to health insurance for people who are low risk, healthy people who just want peace of mind knowing that if anything actually did happen, they do have a pool of funds to pull from to cover their medical costs. The best part, my group is saving a portion of the monthly opt-in in Bitcoin, and the rest is in cash. So those savings are going towards actually preserving long-term value for my group through a vehicle like Bitcoin. We are really excited about this concept, and since the business model is predicated on an incentive-based healthcare, it is a great concept. For people with low risk, minimal healthcare costs, it is a no-brainer. Go check them out in the link below and use our promo code MAFIA for a discount on your first 6 months with Crowd Health. Bella, welcome to the Meat Mafia podcast. I think this is very serendipitous. We have Steak and Butter Girl on the Meat Mafia podcast. This is perfect.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, we're equally just as excited. We were saying prior to hitting record, we've been a big fan of a lot of the content that you've put out. We followed you on YouTube for some time and feel like you have just like a really amazing practical approach to approaching nutrition and understanding saturated fat. But we know you have a very interesting story that you were vegan for some time before you had found the carnivore diet, and also an extremely high level musician to top it all off. So I think, Bella, we'd love to just start learning a little bit more about, your nutritional journey and what's led you to the point that you're at today.
Oh, thank you for all of those words. So I don't even know where to start. It feels like such a long time ago when I was vegan, because now I'm approaching 4 years being a carnivore. And just thinking back to when I was vegan, it really does feel like a past life. But I was vegan 4 years ago for 6 years total. So during those 6 years, I really felt, I truly believe that, wow, this is the lifestyle and the diet to be on. It's going to heal my skin, all of my autoimmune issues. I always struggled with eczema and psoriasis. And I just remember growing up as a kid, I would be itching my skin all the time and needing tons of prescriptions and ointments, topical ointments to just keep it at bay. And on the bad days, I would just be scratching until I would be bleeding, and it was very painful. So I was just desperate to heal my skin concerns. But also at that time when I was vegan, I was in my teenage years, I was just kind of obsessed with being thin. And because I'm also performing and on stage playing piano, violin, it was a big concern that I would fit into my gowns and my concert dresses. So there was that on top of all of the other issues that I was, stressed out about. So for my vegan years, it did get better. Like, I did see results initially. I would say the first couple months, I was like, wow, this diet works. And I'm losing weight. I feel energetic. I feel like my skin is getting better. But now thinking back to it, I really do think it's because I cut out all of the junk that I was eating before going vegan. And I feel like that's the case for a lot of vegans who end up, quitting and having big health issues down the line. That initial unicorn heavenly phase is because you cut out all of those processed carbs and sugars and junk food, fast food meals, seed oils even. So I really feel like that initial improvement for me was because of that. And then long term, within just a couple months, it just went downhill. So I actually ended up with more health concerns and issues than I started with after 6 years of the vegan diet. So that's kind of how it all started.
What were some of the things that you were running into in terms of health concerns that made you think, hey, maybe I need to switch this up completely? Because going from vegan to carnivore is I think in a lot of people's minds, going from one extreme to the other, right? So I'm curious what were the signals that you were paying attention to? And then why did you decide to go headfirst into carnivore?
Yeah. The biggest signal for me when I was vegan was I lost my cycle. And for women, that's a pretty big marker of your overall health, your hormonal health, how things are going fertility wise. And for me, I definitely want to have kids down the line. So not having a cycle is a huge red flag. And also, at that time, I was like brainwashed into believing by the vegan community that not having a period is a sign of health. You're detoxing. So there was definitely a lot of brainwashing, just complete misinformation that was spreading within the community. So yes, I was very stubborn and just blind. And I was very close-minded because all I believed in was whatever the vegans were preaching. But it wasn't until I had a full panel blood test, year 6, and my doctor sat me down and gave me that pep talk, that slap back into reality conversation, because she looked at my numbers. I was so deficient in so many things. I still remember she told me, like, your vitamin D is the lowest I have ever seen with any of my patients. It was like 7, single digit. So I was just very sick, very malnourished. And she said, you either have to supplement heavily if you insist on being vegan and staying vegan, or eat some animal foods. So that was like the first moment where I even considered eating animal foods again. So yeah, I honestly just did a deep dive on the internet, ex-vegans eating meat again. And what popped up were ex-vegans going carnivore for some reason. And I took that as a sign. Okay, so let me just keep watching these ex-vegans going carnivore. So shout out to Kasumi Chris, Azra Conlu. Those were like the 2 females who showed me that even though I was vegan, I can also just eat meat and start healing already. I also think it's like personality based. I know that, the best way to go into carnivore is to transition, not like go cold turkey if you want to have like a smooth transition. But for me, because my personality is very much all in or just not at all, it's just like super committed. That's why I personally decided to go from vegan straight into carnivore.
Equip's Unflavored Prime has one single ingredient derived directly from grass-fed beef protein. For purists like ourselves who try to only consume balanced, real sources of nutrition, this protein powder checks all the boxes. Go check them out in the link below and use our promo code in the description to get a discount.
Interesting. Yeah, it's really cool to hear you tell that full story and just learn more about that perspective. But it is so interesting to think about things from the female lens, because we've had on a number of other female guests that were similar to you, that were plant-based, vegan, raw vegan. And the thing is that they're doing it with the intention of, they think they're doing the right thing. They think they're doing the right nutritional thing. And I'm just curious, do you think, is it almost like a nutritional psyop that we're in? Is it a lack of information? Is it propaganda? Why are so many women trying to go plant-based when in fact it's the saturated fat that you really need to have a healthy cycle and be more fertile? I'm just curious your perspective on that, Bella.
Well, it definitely doesn't make me happy seeing all of these celebrities touting and promoting the vegan diet. I see it all the time on TV, on social media, just these big name A-list celebrities going vegan or promoting the Beyond Meat brands. I don't know exactly why this is so popular, but I personally just think that there is absolutely so much misinformation out there, especially for us poor women. Like, we have been taught to believe that eating salads and moving more and exercising, working your butt off in the gym is the best way to be healthy, to look fit. Like, even for the women who don't really care about health right now, which is very common, especially for my young women. Fine, you don't really care about health right now. All you care about is looking slim, lean, fit. That's a great goal, but you don't have to overwork in the gym and starve yourself to get to that goal. So that's definitely something that I learned with my carnivore journey, is that I am allowed to eat these delicious, satiating butter, okay? Just butter, as much butter as I want. Like, I can say animal fats and list all the animal fats, but my love since day one was butter. And I think butter has changed my life. Of course, steak as well. Like, that's why I came up with the account name Steak and Butter Gal, because those 2 foods were literally all I needed initially to heal, to feel amazing. And then down the line, I started adding more variety in carnivore foods.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, I was just going to say, how quickly did you start to see some of the changes in your health once you started incorporating animal foods into your diet?
Yeah, I think the biggest, most quickest benefit was just my energy, like my mental clarity. It really felt like just this fog was lifted off of my head, off of my whole life. Like I would just wake up and finally feel clarity and motivation to do stuff. Whereas before it was a lot of willpower, like, oh, I have to practice so much today. I'm going to force myself, get myself out of bed. I don't feel like it. No, like now I just wake up and I know what I want to do. I want to have a great day. I'm productive. Like that is one of the best benefits, the mental clarity and just that natural feeling of motivation. For my skin issues, I would say that took the longest for me. It took about 6 months of consistent high-fat carnivore eating to start seeing noticeable results in my skin because I was struggling with acne, big time, cystic acne. It was pus-filled, just really painful, very red, combined with psoriasis and rosacea too. Like it was just a mess. So it makes sense. Like for my skin, it really did take a lot of consistent carnivore eating to heal my autoimmune issues and my acne. My cycle came back within 2 to 3 months of high fat eating. And yeah, I would say those are the biggest benefits initially.
What do you say to people? So you obviously come into a contact with a lot of people, I'm sure, who are looking to make a transition onto an animal-based carnivore diet. But I think a lot of people really struggle with this idea of like not being able to see the changes right away that they're necessarily looking for. How do you help people kind of like commit and like really coach them through this idea? Like, hey, it might take you 6 months until you start to see your skin clear up and start to see some of the full benefits of eating this way.
Yeah. I always, whenever I talk about benefits and reaching, your goals on the carnivore diet, I always try to, include that warning. Like, this is not a quick fix diet. This is not one of those fad diets that's going to help you lose weight drastically. Because like we all know that those types of diets, you're going to bounce back in all of that weight and more. It's not long lasting results. So I always try to stress like, this is for the long run, longevity and long-term health. And if your specific goal is for skin healing, then yes, I will always say you got to give a lot more patience than some of the other goals like fat loss or maybe growing your hair faster. Actually, that too is going to take a bit longer. But the more simple goals, I would say, like improving energy, mental clarity, those are a little bit quicker to achieve. But skin improving, depending how bad your skin is or how many skin concerns you have, that typically takes at least a couple months. And adaptation can be very tough. So I always try to say like focus on getting through that adaptation hump and then look forward to the results. Like I don't want you to expect day one, week one of carnivore, everything's going to magically get better. Adaptation for a lot of people can be really rough.
So I'm curious, with the cystic acne, do you attribute that purely from maybe like inflammation or just issues of eating a vegan diet? And I'm just curious as well, was there anything else that you did outside of like a carnivore removal diet that you think really helped your skin in the long run?
Yeah. So my skin started acting up and breaking out big time when I was in high school. Like I would say 10th grade is when it started getting really just reactive and inflamed. And I think that has to do with genetics because my big sister, same exact skin issues, lots of acne during the teenage years. My mom also told me when I was growing up, I grew up with this type of acne concern as well. So I think a big part of it is genetics, but also diet. I was eating a lot of seed oils. I remember because my mom was raising 4 kids alone, she would just take us out to fast food restaurants every day. So who knows what type of horrible ingredients were in those burgers, breakfast sandwiches, pizzas. I mean, we all know it's the absolute worst chemicals. So those types of things I was growing up on. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was really all of those foods, those particular processed meals that contributed to just how horrible my acne was.
Got it. So you stuck with it for 6 months and then you really started to see your skin improve. Have you had any flare-ups with your skin since, or has it just continued to progress and get better and better over the last 4 years?
Yeah. So when I look back at my before pictures, when I had that full-blown acne, I honestly cannot believe that was the face that I used to wake up with every single day. But for my skin particularly, I found that the more fat that I ate, the more hydrated and supple and just happy my skin was. And that also affected my hormone health, my cycles, how painless and regular they were. So for my skin, it was honestly just, again, patience, consistency, eating the carnivore diet. And if I can add, high fat, like a lot of fat.
Mm. What sort of problems do you see most people coming off of a vegan diet having? Is it consistent with what you're talking about? Or are there other things that people come to you looking for solutions in maybe some like unique things that they have that seem to be like across the board, whether it's low energy or skin issues?
Oh, yeah. So I run a support group called the Steak and Butter Gang. And I think after I opened that group, I really have seen the whole entire spectrum of issues, of things that any human could want to heal and improve. Because I'm having people from all over the world, all ages, all ethnicities come into this group, sharing what their goals are, what they're struggling with, what they need help on. So I honestly feel like there is not one concern or health issue that I have not seen as a goal with carnivore, just because of this fantastic community.
Interesting. One of the things that we found really interesting too about your story, Bella, is how when you were plant-based, I think I heard you say this on a few shows, that you would literally dream of like your first meal being eggs and Kerrygold butter. Right. Which it was almost like your body had this like intuitive sense of what it wanted and you were fighting against that, right?
Oh, yes, totally. My body was screaming for eggs and butter. Like it wasn't specifically Kerrygold butter, but just fat, like whatever that was rich and fatty and dense. Like I didn't even know that it was animal fats that I needed all along. It was just hungry, but specifically eggs, because I grew up eating a lot of eggs. Like eggs is a popular ingredient in Chinese cuisine. So yeah, I remember dreaming about eating eggs, and you can imagine that first bite in real life of having eggs and butter. I felt like I was levitating and I was seeing in color again. It was incredible.
One of the things you mentioned before was this concept of fad diets. And you kind of said like carnivore fell outside of that. And I'm curious, we run into this so often when we talk about nutrition. People really want to fall for or are susceptible to falling to the next thing, whether it's keto, pescatarian, fruitarian, Atkins, and it kind of creates this image where like marketers can then come in and really use that label against them. So they start selling them keto cookies or things that are just highly processed, and almost defeats the purpose. Why do you think carnivore might be a little bit different and it's like not really a fad diet and something that you can sustain over the long term?
Yeah, I think carnivore diet for me, the reason why I don't see it as a fad diet, and I just want to say, like, for anyone who is concerned that it is just another fad diet, just give it a go, like 30 days. If it doesn't help you with anything, then who cares? Drop it. Forget that you ever heard or did carnivore diet. It doesn't matter, But for those who actually give it a go and give it that 30 days, 99% of the time, I'm seeing and hearing these reports like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've achieved these results, or I'm feeling better, or my IBS has gone away. So these shocking results. And for me, it's not a fad diet because you're literally just eating whole foods. You're not buying from processed brands, right? Brands that are trying to sell you all of these stevia-filled foods. For keto diets, I see how people can kind of view that as a fad diet because there's just all these brands and processed snacks, foods to help you lose weight attached to it. But for carnivore, you can make it as simple as you want. For example, me, when I first started, simply butter and ribeyes. That's just all I wanted. That's all I ate. I got the results that I wanted from just eating those two foods. So it's just too simple to be like this fad, trendy diet.
Yeah. There's also this like incredible simplicity to your point too, that comes from eating carnivore, where it's like, number one, once you rewire your palate, like being able to eat ribeyes and fatty cuts of steak and butter is delicious. but it's also, it's such a simple way to approach your life. Like there's so many people where their lives revolve around like eating for flavor and going to different restaurants. And I'm sure there's, there's a time and a place for that. Sometimes it's seasonal, whatever, but there's just such simplicity to just being like, I'm just going to eat this select food groups and I'm going to feel amazing. And then I'm going to go live the best possible life that I'm meant to live, which is what food should be doing to us. Like we shouldn't be revolved around the flavor or the experience. It should be like, how does that food actually make you feel so you can go do something with your life, right?
Exactly. So I have a question for you too. Do you view food as entertainment or food as fuel?
Fuel. I mean, and I like, so from my perspective, I really enjoy sharing meals with people, but I don't think that, for the most part, I think of food as fuel, but then also something that we can all kind of like share experiences around. So,
right.
Yeah, I think fuel first and then entertainment second. And so what I mean by that is like having our specific food groups of like, red meat, lamb, butter, salt, eggs, things that we really thrive on. And then like there's an entertainment component to it of like carnivore, you can learn all these different types of dishes or ways to prepare the meat or different cuts of steak. And then you can actually share them with people and you can all kind of bond over that experience. Like the other day, we had a couple friends over and made like a big picana, just dry brined it. And then our friends aren't carnivores. So we made like some fries, cooked them in beef tallow for them. And we had a couple of them too. And it was just like a very simple but delicious meal. And we were having great conversation and ended up just being an amazing night. So I think you can accomplish both. But for whatever reason, we've just forgotten that food is really supposed to be fuel. It's supposed to be nourishment. It's not just meant for taste solely.
Right, exactly. And I totally agree with everything you guys said. I feel like it can be a hybrid. Like at this point, who doesn't love meat as like entertainment food? You can cook it so many different ways. If you have like a whole rib roast, that is the star of any show. Like a big hunk of fatty meat for me is the ultimate form of entertainment, but always I see food now as fuel, but I could see it as a hybrid. When you need it as fuel, it's right there. When you need it as entertainment, cook it different ways. Have my egg pudding that people love to spice up or, add their own little creations into. There are so many different things that you can do to animal foods alone. So I think it takes time, I would say, for taste buds to stop wanting the traditional entertainment foods, the snacks and the desserts. It takes time for the taste buds to adapt.
Yeah, we had Mark Schatzker on our podcast, and he wrote this amazing book called The Dorito Effect. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in what he put in that book. He quotes Fred Provenza, who's done a lot of amazing work out of Utah State. But essentially, the ideas behind the book are talking about how we have this nutritional wisdom and how the technology on our tongue is really wired to tell us what we should be eating. And it's almost been hijacked by these like flavor scientists for all these big companies who are really good at manipulating these flavor profiles to make us highly prone to addiction when it comes to eating Doritos and all the sweets out there. But like what the carnivore diet does, and I think this is really the power behind it, is it detaches us away from that like carb roller coaster and makes us get back in touch with that intuition that we have, which is really kind of like chasing satiety. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but it's like we really do kind of crave like these fatty foods when we get rid of the processed stuff.
Yes, that's a really good point. I achieved food freedom for the first time in my life when I started eating animal foods and animal fats. And I think there's something about being able to finally read your body and your hunger cues. There are definitely moments where I know that I'm craving for fat and only fat. So I take out a stick of butter from the fridge, I eat it, and I instantly feel better. I would never have known or understood these signals until I went carnivore and ate the foods that my body actually felt great on. And then there are other moments where I just want a juicy steak. So like at this point, it's so nice to be able to understand my hunger signals and my cravings. Like it's ultimate food freedom for me. And I think that's just so freeing. A lot of people say carnivore diet is restrictive, but for me, it's the most freeing experience I've ever had.
Yeah, it's the most freeing experience for so many different reasons. But I think to everything that you're saying, being able to realize, to get to this point where you're like, when I'm hungry and I'm actually craving a piece of animal protein, I'm going to eat because I know I'm actually hungry. And if I'm not craving the animal protein, I'm just either eating for boredom or for taste, or like just not really knowing what else to do. That's kind of been a barometer for me that's been really helpful, Bella. But something I wanted to talk to you about was right around Thanksgiving, you and your boyfriend posted a great video just on your different perspectives of like eating through the holidays. And obviously, like at the time of posting it, this video will be right around Christmas time. And I'm just curious how you think about eating on a holiday or going off your diet. We'd love to just get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I posted that video, I think the comment section, I have to say I learned so much, because I realized after I posted that video, I have a very particular background. And that background plays a lot into my mindset. It honestly is everything for my mindset. I come from a background where I suffered so much. I went through so many different concerns and issues that if I were to find one solution, any solution that could fix it all, and for me, it was carnivore diet, why would I ever sacrifice those results just for a bite of food, just for pleasure? So for me, it was common sense. But for someone like my boyfriend, he couldn't really wrap his head around it. And I understand why now, because he's not sick. He can get away with it. He can tolerate enjoying these foods for the sake of, socializing, being a part of a scene, maybe keeping up with traditions within the family. When mom and grandma cooks those traditional Chinese dishes, he'd rather eat it, enjoy it, be with family, be in the moment, than be like, oh, I can't eat these things because then my acne will come back, my eczema and psoriasis will flare up. For me, that was everything, why I said what I said in that video. But I think it really comes down to this. Do you want to put up with the consequences? Because you will definitely have to put up with consequences after eating the non-carnivore foods, the indulgence foods. If you're willing to put up with the consequences, it's your choice. You can eat whatever you want. You can indulge as much as you want on X, Y, and Z days. If you feel like you have tendencies that when you indulge, you fall down the carb hole and you can't get back out, then you have to prepare for that. You have to plan ahead. You have to know exactly when you want to indulge or cheat, exactly, what meals you want to cheat on. Because I find a lot of people who come to carnivore, they're also struggling with food addiction, with carb cravings all the time. So you just have to understand your boundaries. But at the end of the day, it's your body, it's your life, it's your mouth. You can feed it whatever you want. I just hope that for those who have felt these immense results and benefits, they realize that it's the animal foods and the animal fats that brought those benefits. So if you fall down that carb hole, make sure you have some type of support group, maybe a coach, watch videos that inspire you to get back on track. I personally know how hard it is to get back on track after falling down a hole like that, binging. It's not easy. So just prepare and plan.
So it's almost like for you, your mindset is so anchored to how good you feel. You're like, look, no Christmas cookie or processed piece of garbage is going to take you off of that diet, basically. Exactly. Even if it tastes so good, you don't care.
Exactly. And I don't think it would taste nearly as good as I think if I were to actually put it in my mouth. And I know this because whenever I walk by, those strong stands on the street selling super strong desserts or the caramelized peanuts, I used to think that they smelled so good back in the day when I was eating carbs. Now as a carnivore, a high-fat adapted carnivore, when I smell those fumes, it gives me nausea. Like it legit puts me off and turns me off. And it gives me headaches almost because it's so strong. So if I'm so turned off by the smell, I know for a fact I'm not going to enjoy the taste. So it's just not worth it to me.
Do you think there's a world where you can have even like a little bit of carbs on the carnivore diet? Or because I think like, I really relate with what you just said, where like once you're really fully fat adapted and you're eating satiating foods and nutrient dense foods, the cravings like almost don't exist. Like there really aren't these, like for me at least, big goals to like go back and have a cookie or something like that.
Yeah.
But do you think there's a world where like, yeah, you can have the occasional cookie, or like, do most people struggle that you run into just struggle too much with like the carb addiction where they just one cookie leads to 10?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think it boils down to if you're an abstainer or a moderator. Like me versus steak and butter guy is the perfect example. I am not a moderator. I could never be a moderator. Anytime I allowed myself to indulge, and I'll only have one piece, one cookie, it never ended up with just one piece, one cookie. It was the whole bag. And then middle of the night, I would be going to the grocery store to get bags more. Like that is just my tendency. But then you look at someone like my boyfriend, he is absolutely a moderator. He could just have 2 bites, 2 cookies, or he could have the whole bag if he felt like it, but he is in control. He feels like he's in control. So I from my community and what I have seen with these carnivores, who are struggling with, if I'm going to indulge on vacation or holidays or not, it really does boil down to, do you have a sugar addiction or a carb addiction that you currently are working on? Or are you truly a moderator and you can just indulge here and there and still go back to carnivore diet the next day easily? So again, I think you have to understand just yourself and your tendencies.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about knowing yourself, because I feel that particularly with the animal-based diet, and there are a ton of people that have had amazing results with it. But I just find that when I introduce a lot of fruit or fruit, a little bit of honey, even raw milk, I just want to keep consuming these things to the point where it's like, all right, now I've had so much sugar, this isn't even healthy for me anymore. What I've really just found with myself, and it sounds like you too, and Harry, it's like, when I'm as close to like red meat, butter, salt, bone broth as possible, that's when I feel my best. And that's when I'm operating at my best. And anything else is kind of just an addition or a deviation away from that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a healthy mindset right there.
So Bella, I'm curious, you mentioned your success as a performer. And I think as people who focus on nutrition or spend a lot of time talking about nutrition, it's easy to obsess over these things. And like, they are incredibly important, but they're really just like the foundations of life. And then it's supposed to support you so that you can go do amazing things. And you sort of embody that with your performance as, a pianist. So I'm curious, like, how has adopting this diet helped you perform better and get more involved in other things outside of, just your musical endeavors?
Yeah. So it's given me confidence. And I love to say that carnivore confidence. When you feel confident and you feel happy about yourself, where you are, how you feel, even how you look in front of the mirror, you're able to stop dwelling on your insecurities. Like you're able to stop feeling bad for yourself, pouting, like I'm not at my goal weight. I don't feel great. I don't look good. Those are no longer your worries. And like for me, at least, and probably for a lot of young women, that can take up a lot of mental space. It really can. Those voices in our head can really control our lives and self-esteem. And speaking of self-esteem, my skin is now good. I don't have to feel so self-conscious about my skin. And that is another just freedom, like more mental space that is freed up for me to focus on something else. And I think I felt that so much after going carnivore, is like, wow, all of these issues that were so like important to me that I just felt like I could never resolve, they're resolved. So now what? Like now I have all this free time and extra confidence to put into stuff. So I started the YouTube thing. Like I started documenting on Instagram. And I think I could not have done that if I were vegan. I would never have been able to put myself out there and make YouTube videos and sit in front of a camera and talk, because I just never had that confidence. I never felt my best or good about myself. So I do have to credit just the mental clarity and the confidence that this lifestyle has given me.
The carnivore confidence is such a real thing that we've experienced it. We hear from so many people, and it's like, number one, to what you're saying, just nutritionally, when you're nourishing your body with these saturated fats, you just feel incredible. Like I feel like after 3-ish days or so, I almost feel like my vision improves. And I don't know if that's just a placebo or what, but my vision literally feels crisper. And then there's almost like this second piece of the confidence where it's like when you're controlling the dopamine from food, there's almost like this inherent mental, I don't know, this just confidence that comes from controlling the food that you put into your system, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. The fact that you have total control of what you eat when you stop eating. Like for me, I used to binge. I would not be able to stop eating, even though I desperately wanted to. Like I have class to go to, but yet I still cannot think about eating more and more and more. So the freedom and the control and just knowing your body, understanding your signals, like it's like the best life. So good.
Yeah. And something, Bella, we wanted to ask you too. It seems like with women in particular around carnivore diet, animal-based diets, women get very sensitive to feeling like they need carbohydrates. Like that's something we've even heard from a few of our guests is that they feel like depending on where they are in their cycle, carbohydrates could help them out. And I'm just curious how you feel about that. Obviously, it seems like you've had amazing success being strict carnivore. Do you think that there is a place for carbohydrates depending on where you are in your cycle? Or, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think the only time to really add in carbohydrates is if your cravings are so intensely strong for that carbohydrate food. For example, if you're so used to having some dark chocolate before your cycle arrives, I mean, just have it instead of feeling so restricted that just because I'm on this carnivore diet, I cannot have any of those foods. No way. If you're really craving for it, have it, but have like an end goal or at least some time frame to experiment with. Instead of having that carb food, what would happen if you had more fats? And for me, that's what kind of did the trick for those cravings for sugar, chocolate, peanut butter. It was really essentially a craving for fat. So whenever I had that signal and I was like, ooh, some nut butter would be good right now, I would feed myself some butter and that voice and that craving would go away. So I don't know if this could apply to every single woman, but I know for a fact that high fat for me and eating straight up butter and animal fats resolved all of those cravings and gave me the hormone health that I wanted. So I definitely believe that a high fat carnivore diet is probably the most optimal for women who are concerned about hormone health and who want to beat their sugar cravings.
I feel like the kind of the vegan versus carnivore picture when it comes to nutrition they kind of battle along three different pillars: the nutritional one, the environmental arguments, and then like the humanitarian arguments. And there's a number of different reasons why nutritionally I think you could make the arguments for carnivore, but the humanitarian one is one where I think a lot of women kind of are like drawn towards like this idea of like, yeah, but like I don't really want to like be eating animals. How or did you run into that when you were making the transition? And what sort of things did you maybe do to help you get over that?
That initially was definitely a big struggle for me, just that guilt that I felt, that strong feeling of shame and guilt, because I, like for 6 years straight, in front of my friends and family, I would be touting how fantastic this vegan diet was, how great it was for the planet. And so that was definitely one of the biggest hurdles I had to overcome initially, was how am I going to break this news to my friend circle and my siblings? And what helped me feel better about it was watching these ex-vegans go carnivore, like seeing these women glow up after eating fats and animal foods. Like it was very inspiring. I wanted that. I wanted those results. And if it could make somebody feel better about eating animals, my best tip is support local farms. Go to farmers markets. You don't have to buy those cheap conventional meats, although those are very budget friendly for my carnivores who have to stay under a budget. But if you're that concerned about, all of these animals are dying for my meal, you can at least support a family who could use your support, right? A farmer, a local, just farmers markets, local farms. Buy a whole cow. That is so sustainable. Buy a whole half of a cow. And also watch the documentary Sacred Cow, because that is incredibly eye-opening.
Yeah, Sacred Cow does such a good job of exploring the morality around eating meat and how, none of us want the animal to die, but at the end of the day, it's like we have evolutionary evolved to eat a lot of saturated fat and animal products, and there really is no life without death, and it's really this cyclical process, and you have to learn. You almost have to train yourself to take the morality out of it. But I love what you said about choosing to support your local rancher, your local farmer, if you're in an economic position to do that, because you know that you're going to get a piece of meat where the animal was raised incredibly ethically. They had a great quality of life. The rancher maybe is even doing things regeneratively where they're improving the quality of the soil health, and you're inheriting all that nutrition in every single bite of food that you take. So I agree with you. And I'm curious, I know you said you split time between Washington and LA. Are there any farmers or ranchers that you like to order from when you're out there?
Yes. So there is a farm just the other day when I was interviewing Dr. Chafee, he said that he loved the meat, the mature beef from a farm from Clay Alum. I think that's how it's pronounced. And that literally sparked an interest. Like, I need to start looking for farms for not only delicious meat, but also raw dairy. So I remember going to, now I can't remember the city in Washington, but I found this farm where they have raw dairy. And it's illegal here in the first place. So to have these local farms to get raw dairy from, and you can support them, and you can get some high quality dairy products, that's fantastic. When I go to LA, I honestly just get from this brand called Raw Farm. And you can find it at Bristol Farms, Sprouts, Erewhon, just like the more healthy food stores. And their raw butter is to die for. Yeah. You can't find it anywhere else, just California. Have you tried it?
So I lived in San Diego for this past year prior to moving out to Texas. Yeah. And their raw butter is so good that you can take it by this. I would throw a little Maldon salt on there, and I'm like, I could basically eat this as a standalone meal. It's so good.
So good. Yeah.
Bella, do you have any other resources for people if they're interested in learning from some of the people who have inspired you to take some steps, and adventure into the world of carnivore, or just are looking to start to improve their health?
Yeah, just watch videos. Like, I love playing long podcast episodes or just videos from my favorite carnivores. So just shout out to whoever pops up in my head first, Dr. Sean Baker. I mean, I see it as the father of carnivore diet. He brought it to the world, to popularity. Kelly Hogan was such an inspiration for me because I related to so many aspects of her initial carnivore journey, with her weight gain, with her weight struggles, binging. Listen to Dr. Kiltz. He's fantastic. His positivity, right? His energy is contagious. Dr. Chafee, we talked about him multiple times. Like, he is fantastic for no BS info about why carnivore diet is fantastic. Who else? Like, there's just so many. You can join my Steak and Butter gang if you just want a community to connect with real carnivores throughout the world, to meet people near you that you can be friends with, because you can set your location and see who's near you. There's just, listen to the videos of Meat Mafia. I feel like that's all you need. You have pretty much interviewed all of the great carnivores I see on your channel. So fantastic source of learning right there as well.
It's just so amazing, right? The knowledge that you can gain when you use the internet the right way. Very similarly to you, I was trying to heal myself of ulcerative colitis, and I listened to Sean Baker on Rogan in 2019, and that sparked the whole journey. And it's we've almost lost this power to just learn from anecdotes. And I think there's 25 million people that have autoimmune diseases. But if you literally, I think you had mentioned this, if you search the exact autoimmune disease and then carnivore, you can find dozens and dozens of people that have cured that autoimmune disease from eating carnivore. It's so interesting.
It is. Also, shout out to Rivero. They have this fantastic place where you can see all of the success stories, and you can search in their filter search box just whatever autoimmune issue or health concern you want to heal. And I can guarantee you there's already a story up of it being healed. So that's another fantastic source. I think it's Rivero.com, but their success story page.
I love it. And with Steak and Butter Gang, Do you find that people really just benefit maybe from like an accountability perspective, knowledge perspective, just having multiple people to, I don't know. I just find like being around other people and telling them I'm going carnivore, it just makes me stick to it even better. So I'm sure you probably see that, right?
I think the best case scenario is your guys' case. You are friends. You can hang out with each other in real life and connect and talk about carnivore. So I would say the next best scenario is talking and connecting on a Zoom screen. So that's what I try to do is like, no matter where you are in the world, what time you wake up or go to sleep, there will always be a meeting that you can hop on to talk about carnivore diet with real life human beings, not just, some carnivore icon or role model that you look up to and you just watch their YouTube videos. No, you can actually talk to us and share your victories, share your struggles, complain, whatever, it's a circle of friends who want to get healthy through carnivore.
Mm-hmm. You have such a unique perspective on this. I'm really I think there's so much value in this conversation that people are going to be able to pull from, but I would love to know what you think the worst dietary advice that you've heard either from someone or from someone in the steak and butter gang. Like what's something that you've heard where it's just like, no, that no one should ever think that.
Yeah, I think any advice or just anything that has to do with 1,200 calories a day. And that number varies a lot, but like 1,400 calories, 1,200 calories a day, it really, really affects me. Like it hits a nerve for me because I fell into those things. And I fell into that trap of eating only 1,200 calories and obsessing over chronometer and tracking everything. Like if only I could somehow get into all of my female brains, who are interested in this lifestyle and just tell them, just give 30 days of eating as much as you want. Stop when you're full. If you feel like you're going to overeat, up your fats because fats are so satiating. There's so many things that you can tweak and experiment with down the line, but just give it 30 solid days of consistent carnivore eating. Eat whatever you want, possibly eat 2 to 3 meals a day. That's the best way to prevent undereating, which is a common mistake on the carnivore diet, especially for women, is undereating. Just eat until satiation and see how you feel. 9 times out of 10, you're going to feel so great and amazing that you won't even care about your body goals. Of course, it's going to be important, but you're not going to be as obsessive. It kind of takes away that unhealthy obsession of being thin, of getting to a size 0. At least it did for me. And I hear these, reports over and over and over. You start feeling so fantastic. You get that carnivore confidence. You're loving your curves and you can just live life and be happy. It's like so simple. So when people try to complicate it and make it so difficult and force you to eat 1,200 calories a day, it definitely makes me very angry.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I'm sure it's very motivating for you to put out the right information because you think about how many women and men that maybe aren't venturing to make changes with their diet because they've almost been psyoped into thinking that there's like this white knuckling or this discomfort that comes from having to restrict calories, where it's like when you go carnivore, like you'd mentioned, you can eat as much meat as you want and it's satiating and there's so much good fat and butter and it's delicious and you feel incredible and the pounds are like seemingly dropping off of you. It almost seems too good to be true because most people are like just used to being in this metabolic rut. They don't know what it actually feels like to nourish their body with the right food. So it's just so interesting to explore that whole concept.
It is. It's fascinating.
Well, Bella, this has been such an awesome conversation. I know our audience is going to love it. Where's the best place for people to find you and learn more about what you're doing over at Steak and Butter Gal?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. Instagram, I like to post a lot. I try to do some entertaining, but also informative reels. I like to share what I'm up to, what I'm eating, what I'm shopping for regarding like meats and groceries in my stories. So I'm Steak and Butter Gal across all platforms. I recently started posting a little bit more on TikTok and like they kind of went viral, but viral where everybody is hating on my TikToks, like saying like, is this girl for real? Like this is a joke, right? like this cannot be healthy. But in a way, I'm happy about that because it's at least reaching people outside of the carnivore community. So if I can convince anyone who is not as closed-minded as most of those comments, who is like, you know what, I'm going to look at her YouTube channel just to look into this lifestyle because she looks healthy, hopefully I can convince more people outside the carnivore community to give this lifestyle a try because it truly is life-changing. So TikTok, I'm trying to post more and deal with those comments. YouTube, love to post interviews and experimental videos. And the gang. If you want a community, you can join the gang.
Love it. Well, we've absolutely been loving your content too, and just appreciate all the work that you've done in this space. And it's amazing just to get to meet you and have this conversation. And we're looking forward to connecting with you at KetoCon in person, have a ribeye or grab some curry or something like that, right?
I cannot wait. KetoCon's going to be amazing.
Yeah, there's some great brisket and barbecue in Texas we could get too.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I actually don't know where to eat in Texas, so I will lean on your recommendations.
Yeah, we'll definitely point you in the right direction. But yeah, thank you so much, Bella. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.